Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. I'm Brendan Lee. In this video I want to talk to you about, I want to contemplate with you and nerd out with you a little bit on how come I'm the only person that sees my perspective? This comes from the forum. Eugenio, thanks for writing. In essence, the question is, how come I'm the only one that sees my perspective? And or it's like, have you ever noticed that there's stuff that goes on in your experience that you notice, only you notice, and other people do not have access to that? Somehow you can notice stuff in your own experience, what we call your internal state or your internal world, your mind, for lack of a better term, but it's like that part of your experience where it's like your private world where only you know what's there and you're the only one that knows what's there. Like, for example, what is my mother's maiden name? Now, if you're my mother watching this, I don't know that my mom watches these or not. Probably not. Anyway, she knows her maiden name. I know my mother's maiden name, but you don't. And there's no way you can know that just by looking at me. You see? Or, I have memories that only I am privy to, like stuff that say I remember happening to me when I was a young child, right? I'm aware of that, but you are not. And so the question is, how come this is the case? Now, I don't know. Honestly, this is something that is outside of my knowledge. Now, like why are the specifics like that, or how come it's set up like that? Now, one of the things as I'm looking into this that I'm considering is, and again, you're invited to use the video to consider along with me. I'm not trying to tell you the way it is. I'm doing my best to tell the truth about what I experience about the matter. And then it's up to you to discover if that's even true for yourself, experientially. Not like a thought about it, but like look into the matter and see what the fuck's going on. Now, one of the things that's coming up for me as I'm looking at it is there does seem to be the fact of the creation of the private inner world in the first place, or that is possible, seems to have to arise before that can happen. Because we could imagine a world where there is no inner self. There is only what is out there happening. However, that still doesn't explain that I can conceptualize prior to having myself be like a social creature. Oh man, this is really bogging down. Like, say, let's go back just for fun. We're messing around here. Try to imagine going back to a time when you couldn't speak, no language, and no ability to communicate. So that means there would be nobody to communicate with. You see, no other for you to talk to, that something could get across to somebody else. You say we take all that away. So now we just left with bodies, but they're not called bodies because there's no language. And say you're a cave person, or no language, no ability to share, maybe even prior to living in caves. I don't know. It's a mind exercise. But no language. Bodies, but no language. No social structures, no socializing, no talking to one another. So probably more like animals. Think of being a human, but more like an animal. No social. And then you might say, well, yeah, but animals seem to talk to each other, but let's pretend like they're not talking to each other, they're not communicating like you and I think. Perhaps it's more like automatic programming. And yet, so just opening that up, I'm not claiming one way or another in this mind experiment. And now, no talking, no social, no language, and yet I can still conceptualize. I might be in the cave and I know of outside the cave, but it's not called a cave and I'm not talking about it, so I still have concept. So I can still have concept, which is, you see, but likely there would be no concept in here, but maybe just a concept, and who knows where that concept is located. You know, it could be like a concept located outside somewhere, or a concept with no idea of location. Usually we have concepts, right? Now, don't you, if you contrast our mind experiment with where you currently live, don't you live in a world where your concepts are inside your head and you are in there aware of them, and then you can from in there talk to other people that are also in there? See, we've taken all that away. You see how different that could be? A concept, but not in there. So it would just be like the knowledge of outside the cave. Now, one place where you can take a look at where there's concepts with no language, for example, in your experience right now, which is always better for this kind of work, is imagine that you're hiking. You're going up a trail, you're hiking. You know of the top of the mountain. You know that as a concept, but you don't think about it. You don't really talk about it. It's just there. It's like inherent in your experience, just the knowledge of hiking, and then the knowledge of where you're going. I'm going to the top of the mountain. It's like you know that, but you're not talking about it. That's what I mean, like a concept without language. It's just the knowledge of that, about which you would say, oh, that's a thought I have about going to the top of the mountain. See, that's language, but the knowing is just that. You got that kind of like you know how a door works, but you don't have to think about how a door works. You just know it. You know that if you grab the handle and turn and push, then it'll open. But you know it without talking about it. You know it without thinking about it. These are like the thoughts or the concepts that you have in your experience, not claiming where, but you have them, you know of them, but you're not talking about them. It's just like that. Knowing, door, see, right? So back to our mind experiment, you can imagine being a cave person. I just use a cave person, I don't know. And you know, you have concepts, but there isn't an inner world that's totally private. And yet we still have concepts, and perhaps I could have a concept and somebody else, but just by looking at me, is not going to know of my concepts. Now that does seem to be very curious. For some reason, I can experience concepts, say, without language. Remember, we're non-social creatures. I can experience concepts. You cannot get those concepts by looking at me. See, what am I conceptualizing right now? Do you know? Can you know? Just by looking? No, the only reason you would know is if I were to communicate something about it, but then again, nerding out some more, imagine that there's no communication. So then you might not even have you might have a thought about, another can have a concept, but there wouldn't really be another the same way. But conceptualizing occurring there, conceptualizing occurring here, and yet there is that gap. Back to your question. See, like, how does this happen? Shit, I don't know. It's kind of like, how does gravity happen? And it just seems to be part of what's going on here. Yeah. So now from our thought experiment, now let's throw in some language. And this is a huge nod to Ralston, because I wouldn't be talking in these ways if I hadn't studied and considered these matters with the help of Peter Ralston. So that should be known. Now we throw in language. Now all of a sudden there's somebody to talk to. There's somebody over here and somebody over there, and I can talk from here to there. And so it starts to become more like I am over here and you are over there. Whereas before, with no socializing, it just might be a world of bodies and concepts, but no language, no speaking, no communication, no nothing, no me here, you there, and talk to each other. Just me with concepts being stimulated by things and doing things like automatic programs. Kill that, eat that, survive, fuck that, whatever. See? No language, just program. Now we throw in language. Now we can have social, we can have community, we can have people. Me here, you there. Now it starts to become, a world starts to develop. And then we can do weird shit with our concepts in that world, and it's private. And now we're getting very insulated this way. And then others are that way, and still the barrier. You know, the my world, you will not know my world unless I tell you. Yeah? So then back to the question again. I keep circling and then coming back and then circling and then coming back. I don't know. Just seems to be how it goes. Why this way or how come? Seems to be a function of being human. I don't know. I'm just going to leave it like open, Take a look. Now we can notice. So you can use this video like a bit of a contemplation up till now. And I wanted to throw a little bit of something of value out your way that might be useful. Here's some use and value. One of the places that I've found where we can actually feel connected as human beings is when something actually gets across, when communication actually takes place, or when I actually get somebody else's experience over here. In those times when I really do that, that is when I feel most connected to my fellow human beings. And one of the aspects of that is not judging what is being presented, because if I judge what is being presented, I will experience my judgments. I won't experience what is being shared. It is not until I actually grasp what is being shared, and then we could do a whole video or consider how does that even happen, because that is less like just blows my mind how that could even occur. But when somebody is actually heard, when an experience is actually presented and you feel like it's actually gotten across to another human being, I think there's something powerful, enlivening, and healthy about that. And that's what we call here communication. When something actually gets across from one human being, as if from one world to that other world, and there's a recognition. And I think there's like a little bit of, might call connection or love that can happen there. Stuff that is empowering and healthy. Okay? So, hey, if you want that, go do that. You do not need to do that, obviously. And most people don't anyway. They usually just react to what's being presented to them. I have a reaction, and I think that my reaction is what's being shared, and that is never the case. A reaction to what's being presented is not the thing that's being presented. It's how I'm reacting to it. See? Rather than getting it. Like, I get it. Oh, I get exactly where you're coming from. Got it. Oh, okay, cool. We're not so separate as human beings. Yeah? Now, I do have a vested interest. I want people to not be as divided. This is the year 2022. And I fear there's a lot of division going on. And one way to not have this division is to actually get each other's experience. See, but yeah, so let's leave that there. All right, so Eugenio, there you go. Use the video as a contemplation. I don't have, in terms of answering your question, I cannot. But I feel like I can serve you by pushing you into the questioning more. And that's what my attempt was here, plus a little tidbit at the end. So, hope that's helpful. Much love. If you want to get serious, check the links in the description. Blah, blah, free course, paid course, however you be an online coach. Most importantly, come here and do a workshop. They will kick butt. They're powerful events that will move you more than any video or books. It's just the way it seems to me. All right, so much love. Take care. Hit me up in the comments. Write me an email. Hit us up at the forums. Ask me a question to help me produce content for you. Keep kicking ass out there. Stay honest. And keep doing good work. Take care.